We are finally back from California, D23, Universal Studios. It was a hell of a time, a hell of a trip. You can see all those videos on our channel now.
Yeah.
But the reason we started this channel in the first place
is movies.
Movies! So we are going to head over to our
local movie theater to watch Dunkirk.
Dunkirk. So it's so unfortunate that the Foothills Mall is basically on its last leg. There's got to be some sort of rejuvenation coming to this mall because it has turned into a shell of its former self. Which is funny though, because like we said before, it's done that before. It was once, you know, one of those stores or malls you go into and there's nobody there, there's no shops there. The mall walkers just kind of use it for a big open space to walk around. But when it comes down to this mall, the AMC theaters, it's the only IMAX in town. So do you sacrifice that and get rid of the mall and the only IMAX, or do you just basically go through a regeneration and come up with something new?
I hope they come up with something new.
So with the busy schedule and trailers dropping for San Diego Comic-Con, the only way we could watch Dunkirk today is if we came to the first showing super early, and the mall isn't even open yet. But that means we get prime seating. Well, it's reserved seating, so it really doesn't matter. We could have come whenever we wanted. AMC, amazing. Vanessa wants a hot dog. Get it, Vanessa. Yeah. Didn't work.
That one looks delicious.
It's just a chili dog.
Yeah, exactly. It's delicious. I don't know what that is.
Is that like
pickles?
Crispy jalapenos?
Spicy sriracha dog is what that one is. I didn't love it as much as I wanted to, but it was still a great movie. There was a couple things in the beginning and then in the middle that I was like, why did he do it that way? Granted, it was definitely a Nolan-like style of movie, which was interesting for a war film, but I feel like it doesn't really fit for a war film at the same time. But the ending of this movie was just beautiful, and it kind of brought everything together, which I guess redeemed itself for me.
So you're probably referring to the Nolan style of time jumping.
Right.
So time jumping, Nolan to me hasn't really done it since The Prestige, where that has been Nolan's style, where he jumps around in the timeline. And he did it for a little bit in like the first half of Batman Begins, but then the rest of Batman Begins pretty much becomes linear.
Right.
And then Dark Knight was linear, Dark Knight Rises was linear, Interstellar was linear with time travel, but it was still linear, the story itself. You followed Matthew McConaughey as things progressed from beginning to end. Right,
but this is for Dunkirk, none of those movies.
Correct, and so that's what you're saying. It's kind of weird that that ended up being the choice that he made, was using that non-linear approach to timeline.
Right, there was just a certain part in the story itself, like when we were watching it, that you could, at first you're like, wait a minute, why is it day and then at night, and then you realize, oh, it's two different times during that time. And at that moment I feel like it didn't, there was no point to me for him to do that.
It was jarring. It was jarring. It was jarring because it confused me at first. I'm like, why are we going from day to night? But
granted, and then I thought if it flowed better with the timeline and it came together finally, then it would. But it didn't really it didn't really come together with the different timelines. It just kind of showed that was different, and then it went back to being linear again, but it never really brought it, in my opinion, it never really brought it together.
I could see that. For me, it's kind of fun. It adds a little extra like a task when watching a movie. It reminds me of the Choose Your Own Adventures, where you put your fingers in all the pages to figure out, well, if I went this way, if I went this way. And for me, it's like, oh, well, this is taking place at this part, and this is connecting to this part. Oh, it's a different angle from this shot. So I was having fun with it versus being distracted by it, even though technically I was distracted because I was thinking about that instead of just enjoying the linear story of the movie. So it's a little extra element added to it, and for me, I liked it. But you're right, I do for one see a situation in which I think going linear probably would have been fine. It would have been a good way to go with the story, but it's not linear. So those that have trouble with the non-linear approach, like Inception or
I could
Prestige,
see people getting confused as to why this is happening now and then kind of taking you out of the movie.
Right.
Granted, we are kind of used to being with Nolan's style, so then we were like, okay, this is what this is. But some of the things that I really, really enjoyed is that the different situations that were happening, like you have Tom Hardy and the other guy in the air and shooting off the people in the air, and then you have the people on the ground, and then you have the people on the boats.
Yep, land, sea, and air.
Yep.
And that's the thing, is the characters themselves, the human side of this story is something that I really enjoyed, because you see desperation, you see greed, I guess, kind of plays into that. You see humanity at its best and its worst.
Bringing out their way of surviving.
Correct, yeah.
They need to survive so they can do whatever they can. And there were certain parts in the movie, like there was the French there too, and then the British were like, we need to survive, and this person is not part of our homestead, if you want to say that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of just, all for one and one for all, unless you're not, English.
Yeah,
so then
a little bit. But
they kind of, screw the French at some point.
But then they do end up, at the end, you kind of give a hint of them
coming together
and wanting to help them too.
Because you're at the point where it's desperation and they need to survive and they're going to do whatever it takes. But at the same time, you see compassion and you see, sacrifice, especially certain characters, they go through a level of sacrifice all the way to the end. So getting back to the end, the beautiful ending, I think, just cinematography wise, music wise, and we'll get on music in a second, but the way the shots, like I even leaned over, I was like, that's a beautiful shot that they scored. Nolan does the whole hat thing on the ground again with the helmets and the hats, like in Prestige, where the camera's panning left to right, and it was just a really magnificent shot. And that part was like, oh wow, I love this. I love all of this. So that made me just on board at the end of the movie too.
Like the suspenseful stuff that happened with me personally was all the stuff that was in the air.
Yeah.
Everything that was happening with the planes and everything, I was just at the edge of my seat and I was just like, what's gonna happen? Then of course them coming together at the end and having hope at the end, you could see that was great. And I'm a sucker for history and I love war, and I am sad to say that Dunkirk was never really anything that we kind of learned for me personally. So I'm gonna have to go back and learn a lot about Dunkirk, because obviously this was a turning point for the British and for the war itself as well. Like one of the pings in World War II. So.
And that's the thing, in the reaction that we had before, we talked about it being a small scale, which we meant in terms of characters. It's following a small group through this big event.
Characters. It has nothing to do with the event itself. Correct. It just has to do with just a small little group
intimacy of the ground, the sea, the air of these characters, not the event itself. Which
we got, and at the same time it was still massive and grand, and I'm really glad that we're getting to get these stories, because a lot of the World War II stories that we get are usually about Hitler and like Pearl Harbor and all that stuff.
Technically, you never see the Germans either. There is a small part where you get kind of like an abstract hint of them, like helmet-wise.
We never see them.
You never see the Germans.
They're just there, but they're not there.
Ever. And that's such a different approach to it. I really enjoyed it. Now, the music side of things, there's only a couple moments where there is no music, literally for like a second or two where there's no music. And they use that in the movie to kind of signify like the tension is over for now. But that's the thing, is the tension, man, the suspense is built by that music the whole way through. It's not really something like you can pull themes out of Inception, you can pull themes out of Dark Knight and all of Nolan's movies with Hans Zimmer, but you cannot really pull a theme, because this is just building up the whole way through. It's basically just like a stopwatch, like in the trailer, but on a much grander level. So,
and the music really enhanced the story itself. Hans Zimmer did an amazing job, especially like I said with the planes and the just the ticking of everything, it kind of brought more oomph to the situations that were happening.
So score, I would say 4 out of 5 for me.
That's what I was going to give it, a 4 out of 5.
It's not something that I could run back and watch over again, but it's something I'm glad I experienced. And that ending, just the shots, the beauty in it.
For the ending itself, I mean, I would go and watch it again, knowing like all the different timelines, because you kind of know.
Tom Hardy's so good. Mark Rylance did an awesome job. Harry Styles did great. Cillian Murphy.
Yeah, they are. Kenneth Branagh,
every single one of them was on point, so really enjoyed it. Check it out, Dunkirk. It's definitely,
we would actually recommend to go check it out at least once before it leaves IMAX. Like, you have to go see it in the
loud, big screens. It was great. And before we sign off, check out some of the vlogs that we did from D23 and Universal Studios. We had a whole bevy of trailer reactions that we did yesterday, as well as the movie trivia schmodown. So you can like and subscribe.
You did a thing on our Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, and Stardust.
And Stardust, yeah. We've been actively using Stardust quite a bit recently, so you can go ahead and check that out.
A cool little app that you can do small little reactions to movies.
Or instant
the movies that you haven't seen yet, or movie like trailers, you can do that as well. So go check it out.
We have them for The Last Jedi, behind the scenes, Lion King footage we saw, Mary Poppins trailer that we saw at D23.
Yes, we talked about the behind the scenes footage, so I know that people were asking about that. You could go check that out as well.
But either way, guys, thank you so much. Hit up our Patreon and help kick into the party, feel the party. You know what to do. And as always, now it's time to say goodbye. Bye.